Welcome back to the episode 2 of Off the Woodwork, a podcast dedicated to everything football, where we talk about everything from football news, transfer, rumors, all the way to football memes. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about the various ranges of big news coming from the world of football and give you a preview of the games to look up to in the upcoming game week. So without any further ado, here's the big news. So guys, let me first start you up with the news that has been rocking the world of football presently. After 7 years, the director of Tottenham Hotspur, Daniel Levy, has finally found the perfect replacement for Gareth Bale, and that's Gareth Bale. So Gareth Bale is coming back to Tottenham Hotspur as it is confirmed in the in this in confirmed by the Sky Sports, and tomorrow he's flying to London to have his medical, and Mourinho and Gareth Bale together finally. Is this going to be a
Finally.
masterpiece or is this just a recipe of disaster? Open to discussion.
Uh, I think Gareth Bale was looking for a move because he was not getting playing minutes. He played around 100 minutes or so last season at Real Madrid, like in the La Liga. So this is a good move for him personally. But I don't feel whether it will work out at Tottenham or not. It's difficult to say because Harry Kane, Son, and Bale up front sounds quite a dangerous trio. But again, Gareth Bale hasn't played last season. Remember that. So yeah, I'm keeping my fingers crossed, man.
Okay.
Uh,
Anybody else?
ac- yeah, actually, it is good for both parties that they have come together to resolve this. First of all, it is clear from
Exactly.
Zidane last season only that for a long time that Bale isn't in his plans, and for Bale moving to Spurs, it would be great for him to get his form back and get some game time as the Euros are next year. So
Yeah.
it is good for both the parties.
Okay. So is this the end for Eric Lamela and Heung-min Son?
No, no, no.
No, I
Heung-min Son
think
can play. No, Heung-min Son can play on, and Heung-min Son can play on either of the wings and Bale too. So they can play as inverted wingers. So there is no so there shouldn't be any issue.
Okay. And about the match fitness of Gareth Bale, there has been a lot of question about that because Gareth Bale hasn't played a full 90-minute match in the entire year of 2020. So coming back to Premier League, how do you think Bale will adapt to the physicality of the league?
yeah, I think Bale will take some time to adjust to the rigorous Premier League because he has been in and out of the Real Madrid squad. He hasn't been a regular starter. He has been mostly on the bench. But I think he knows the league well. He has been a good part of the Tottenham Hotspur side that thrilled us with the Harry Kane and the Gareth Bale partnership. And I think once he settles in, once he gels in with the squad, I think he's going to be a great addition for Jose Mourinho.
Great. And
True.
there has been seemingly an exodus from Real Madrid that has happened because Tottenham Hotspur has done a brilliant deal of Sergio Reguilon from Real Madrid. They wanted a left back as they have ostracized Danny Rose from the squad, and now Mourinho has got his man. So, what do you think about Tottenham's chances now? Because we have been so down about their chances in our previous episode. So, what do you think?
Yeah.
Where do you see Tottenham this season?
Uh, this is a better move. I think this is a more practical move. But yeah, I think they had Sessegnon, who is also who can deputize for Davis. But I think this is a better move as per Reguilon's quality, which was visible in the La Liga last season as well as the Europa League. He was a part of the winning squad of Sevilla. He was on loan there. But I think Reguilon's stats speak much highly of him, as well as his because of that particular reason, Real Madrid has inserted a buyback clause in the contract. He will be available for Real Madrid for around 40 to 45 million euros if Spurs decide to sell him during his next 5 year at like Hotspur way. Uh, Besides that, they also have a preemptive clause if Tottenham decides to sell Reguilon and there is a club which wants to buy him at a, then Real Madrid will have the
First
first chance
refusal.
to match that bid. Yeah, so it's a good move for Real Madrid. They want to offload as many players as possible, and I think this will be a good summer for them to capitalize on the market.
Okay, so last question to Priyanshu that I had Madrid fan here. Are you sad or is it like bittersweet?
Both.
Okay.
Sad because the story ended in this way, and happy because finally Bale will get his game time so that he can prepare for the Euros and become the player that he used to be before.
Okay. Very
True.
So
rightly.
we'll finally get to see golf, not the golfer, the footballer Gareth Bale.
Yeah.
Finally, after so long.
Yeah, today I was seeing a meme of Jose Mourinho traveling in a golf cart to bring Bale back to the original campus. That really
He was
cracked me up.
trying to bring Bale back.
Yeah, cool. Okay, again, as part of big news, there's another big news that has completely rocked the world of football, and that is the incredible transfer of Thiago Alcantara from Bayern Munich to Liverpool for a sum of 27 million pounds. So, as a ex-Barcelona player, I would give the first opportunity to Shamin Dada, who is a Barcelona diehard, to make a comment about the ex-Barcelona player. What do you think? Where do you see Thiago playing for Liverpool, and do you think the move is sensible for him, considering his age and everything?
Of course. I think it's a great move for both the player and the club. And uh, he was already trying to get a move elsewhere, away from Bayern Munich during the last season itself. So I think Liverpool is a great destination right now because they're such a strong team, and with the technicality of Thiago Alcantara, I think they will be a much bigger threat in this season. And we have seen in the last season, in the last part of the season, that there have been many vulnerabilities in part of Fabinho. Fabinho was a weakest link in a Liverpool squad, in my opinion, in the last part of the last season. So I think Thiago will be very capable of filling that gap, and I think it will be a great move. And he's a naturally gifted player with great technical ability, and he has some typical La Masia type of. He's a typical La Masia type of footballer. So I think he'll add a great new dimension to the already great Liverpool club.
The word La Masia brings back memories, nostalgic feeling. Never mind. So, okay, does this mean, once again, the question goes back to you, given Ronald Koeman is at Barcelona, does this mean the path for Gini Wijnaldum to move to Barcelona is clear now?
No, I
Maybe
think because no, I don't think so. Because they have to sell someone, Barcelona, to sign Wijnaldum.
yeah, there are so many technical difficulties right now, as I have said in the last podcast also. Big moves this summer doesn't seem so likely. I think Koeman will still try to bring some Dutch players in this very season. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, because I personally feel Thiago is a good move to the Premier League. He deserves so because he performed so much, single-handedly anchored the midfield. I know Goretzka played well as well as Muller, but it's a good move for him as well as for Bayern Munich because they wanted 30 million out of a guy who had 1 year remaining on his contract, a 29-year-old midfielder. So I think this will help Bayern's cause to revamp their midfield within the next 1 year.
Makes sense.
And
And
30 million is still a bargain for such a quality player, in my opinion.
but still, he's
Yeah,
29-year-old.
But
Yeah.
Liverpool were initially they were reluctant to pay that amount. But right now, your club knew that United were in the front. There were clubs lurking around because they knew if he had 6 months left in his contract, it would be more difficult to push. So Klopp, I think he was able to make the owners understand what's his importance, what will be his role, and he also explained because the personal terms were agreed before. So he also explained to the probably the team or his coaching staff as to why Thiago fits the Liverpool mold of play and the system perfectly.
Okay. Once again, wholehearted condolences to the Manchester United fan from the panels. And
Yeah,
last question, last question that I would like to put forward to the panel is, where do you see Thiago fitting in the formation? Like, whose place is in danger now?
I think Thiago can fit in either for Fabinho or JJ Wijnaldum. I think Jordan Henderson is going to be the mainstay there. He is the skipper
Okay.
of the club. He is always
Okay.
going to be there. And I think Thiago will come in the midfield three, either in place of Fabinho or GG Wijnaldum.
Great, great. So already the league is looking so much more exciting than ever before, with such big names finally coming to the greatest league in the world. And moving on, we are inbound for a thumping week up front, where we are having crunching games in all the leagues, top leagues of European football, and we're going to look into them one by one. So here's the game week preview. So to start it off, we'll be starting off with the Premier League games. So the first game, I would give the first opportunity to Trishita to comment on it because it's his club. It's Chelsea versus Liverpool. Oh my God. So where to start about this?
I think we should start with Liverpool because I think their defense was a little bit like you don't expect a Liverpool defense to concede 3 goals. I think we should start with Liverpool, and Liverpool had a very good season last year. You know, Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold were one of the like best attacking duos, like wing backs. So it was unexpected of Gomez or Van Dijk to be so susceptible to the attacks from Bielsa's team from the flanks. So the previous match shows that Chelsea attacks much from the left-hand side, because if Alonso plays, it's obvious that that's a big outlet for the attacking threat. But Alonso isn't like much of a threat himself. He can provide through balls, or he can provide one-touch passes for Werner or Mason Mount. But this is, I think, a key area, the Joe Gomez and the half space between basically Joe Gomez and Trent Alexander-Arnold. So Chelsea needs to capitalize on that space, and Werner's space is what I think should be the key. I expect Havertz not to play because he was visibly very tired against Brighton, but I think he will have a part there.
Okay, Himanshu, do you have any inputs on do you have any high hopes from Timo Werner in this match?
Yes, of course. I think Timo Werner played really well the last game, and he's going to be the key for Chelsea because Liverpool's defenses look shaky. As you could see against Leeds, they conceded 3. And Liverpool have conceded 9 goals in the last 4 league matches, and they haven't kept a clean sheet, I think, in the last 6 games. So there's vulnerability at the back. And Timo Werner is a perfect man to capitalize there. So I think he's going to be the key. I think the Timo Werner and Van Dijk duel is going to be a treat to watch.
See, I was having a conversation with Rishita about the same thing, that I'm very skeptical about German players playing in Premier League, because I've always seen, like even with my club, when Jolinton came from the Bundesliga to play for Newcastle, he was like very soft. I mean, he would just fall by simple pushes by defenders half his size. So in a similar way, I always feel like players who like transfer from Bundesliga to Premier League, they take a long time to adapt. So probably this is the right match for Timo Werner to break that superstition in me about the German players. So let's see.
Yeah,
go on.
There are a lot of shackles actually, but I think the team has to gel up with him. Okay, actually the team has to gel up much more, but visibly I would say, because Reece James is there, N'Golo Kante is there. So defensively, I think Chelsea are in a little bit of better shape. You can say shape. I'm talking about the transitional shape because Christensen and Zuma back from preseason. They aren't tired. They are much more focused. And I think I expect both of them to start at least this match because Thiago and Ben Chilwell are not available. And I expect Kovacic to play because Kovacic, the distance he covers, the progressive runs, it helps in the build-up of the play. And Ruben Loftus-Cheek should be, I think he should be dropped because he didn't have a good outing that night and against Brighton. And rest of them, as far the Liverpool attack is concerned, I think Mo Salah and Sadio Mane are the main threat to score goals, and Bobby will play his part. Again, if Jordan Henderson is fully fit, he is a big part of the midfield because it will be a battle. It will be a very big battle in the midfield. I think who conquers the midfield will decide a lot. In the major part of the game, it's N'Golo Kante and Jordan Henderson particularly.
Okay, and if you look at the last 5 results that are displayed on screen, this fixture has always guaranteed goals. So be ready for a huge share of goals on this match. And coming to the fact that you took the name of Mohamed Salah, so these are our players to watch for in the upcoming fixture. So Kai Havertz for Chelsea and Mohamed Salah the Mohamed Salah for Liverpool. So these are the heat maps from the previous matches they played. And I'm really hopeful to see at least Salah piling up on his tally, and whatever cameo role that Habas played in the last match, it really gives me hope because this guy knows his tricks well,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah. So this is the first match for our contention. For the second match of the Premier League, well, there were many other options, but there is one particular encounter that has always been a focal point of the domination that Manchester City has exerted over the Premier League, because Wolverhampton Wanderers have been the bane for Guardiola for a couple of seasons now. So this particular Wolves team, with Nuno having signed a new contract, looks so much more refreshed and ready to take up the challenge. Panel, what's your opinion about what to expect here?
I think this is a very difficult time for Man City because Wolves did a league double basically last season, and Nuno Santo had a very different game play approach in both the games. So he used the central overload at the Molineux, and while at Etihad he used Doherty and Johnny much more effectively, like the wing backs. So this is very important. Like which approach Nuno Espirito Santo decides to take will decide how Pep sponsor, because this is Pep's first match, and Wolves have already defeated Sheffield and they're high on morale as well. I think this is a very important tie for Pep because if he wants to win the title, he has to start on a positive note because they've lost quite a lot number of matches last season, and Nuno has been a big thorn because if they would have won against Wolves last season, then Man City would have been a much better position to like win the title or at least fight for it till the end. So I think this is the very big tie.
Okay, Manshu, any comments here?
Yeah, Wolves have been a tough test, tough outing for Man City, and with the form they are in, they have showed some good form in the first game. And considering it is Man City's first game, first competitive game since the UCL exit, so I think there will be a little lacking in the training and in the fitness levels of the players. And also they are hard done by the unavailability of Aymeric Laporte and Riyad Mahrez, who had been quarantined due to them testing COVID positive. They are likely to get back Sergio Aguero for this game, and I think their debutants Nathan Ake and Ferran Torres are going to play a big part because since Bernardo Silva was also injured in the international duty for Portugal. So I think Ferran Torres gets a chance at the at the right wing. He gets to play there.
Ferran Torres is really really highly rated in the Spanish league, and it's a very exciting prospect to see like how he adapts to the Premier League, and maybe I don't know, I don't want to jinx it, but probably a Silva replacement. What do you think?
I think no, because it's the Raheem Sterling will play on the left flank and Ferran Torres can play on the right or on the left because
In
he's
the long
played
run.
both. But yeah, in the long run, maybe Phil Foden. I see Phil Foden as David Silva's long-term replacement. Ferran Torres is an out-and-out winger, and in the later part of his career, David Silva did shift to the midfield, although he played a large part of his career in the wings. You can say Ferran Torres is a good replacement for Man City, the entire team, but maybe a Leroy Sané replacement. I would suggest so. But I think Phil Foden has a good chance to cement his place this season, and like he's the you guys know he's the breakthrough star for Man City who wreaked havoc in the under 17 World Cup, won it as a captain as well. And now his time has come to progress and take his game to another level. And I think with Kevin De Bruyne and Foden, they pose much threat than De Bruyne or in Gundogan or Fernandinho, you can say. So I think I'm hoping like it's a good season for Phil Foden at least.
All right, and coming to the players to watch for, we're having Ruben Neves for the Wolverhampton Wanderers and Raheem Sterling as usual for the Manchester City team.
Yeah.
So what's your opinion about our players to watch for? What do you expect from them this week?
I think
Ruben Neves is colloquially always associated with boom free kicks and out of the box shots and all that.
Yeah.
So I will see
apart from the
some
apart from the set pieces, apart from the set pieces, I would say Neves is a very key part of his midfield, Nuno's midfield, because he sets the tempo. Okay, so if you see the distribution quality of Neves to the flanks, before it was Doherty, now maybe Traore would be playing in the flanks, and here Johnny would be going, or even Neto, Jota, everyone. So his distribution will be key to the match a lot, because he can play passes between the spaces, between the lines as well, where Jimenez holds up play for these wingers, and Neves has a wide range of passing ability. Plus his like defensive qualities is not bad. It's decent enough. So I think Ruben Neves will decide the tempo of the game.
Sure, and we can always look out for those missiles he throws, shoots from outside the box, right? That's always there.
Yeah.
So moving, so we are having some other games on in Premier League. We'll just quickly run through them later on. But right now there is a big match happening in another league in Europe. I'm talking about the Bundesliga, and we are having Bayern Munich versus FC Schalke. And man, this has always proven to be a gut wrencher in recent times. Though Bayern has dominated almost all the matches as much as I can remember, but this has always proven to be a game of pure quality. So, guys, are open to discussion. Whoever wants to jump in, what do you think would be the result, and what to expect from the Bayern team this season?
I
After
think
the
it will be a
recent,
okay. I think it will be a big win for Bayern Munich. It's definitely coming in my opinion.
Okay.
And in their home turf, I think Schalke will be completely destroyed. Priyanshu.
yeah, yeah, after the recent Champions League success and winning a treble last season, one would definitely expect the current champions to start their campaign on a winning note. So I think I think the home team we will win this one. So so I think Schalke would want to perform better this season, as they hardly survived relegation
Yeah.
last season. So but I go for Bayern Munich cruising past this one.
Okay. And
I think it will be one of the last opportunities for the coach David Wagner. David Wagner has been
Yeah.
under the radar of criticism, so I
Yeah.
think it will be his last chance to
Prove.
get the glory days back to the Royal Blues.
Sure. And Rishita, I think you had some information about a striker that Schalke signed.
No, I think Schalke has signed a new player, but apart from that, I think it depends a lot on Harith on the wings, because they've lost Mackenzie to Weston McKenzie to Juventus recently, and
Yeah.
McKenzie was a big part of Wagner's gameplay. So I think Harith has to now drop down, receive the passes and make it for him, because as you can see from the stats, his dribbling and pace is known for his dribbling and pace particularly, and he can I, I don't see Jerome Boateng and Harry. I can see a Jerome Boateng and a Harry duel happening tomorrow, like this weekend. But I still think Schalke has a lots to improve if they want to beat them in Munich. Like at home, it's very difficult to beat Bayern Munich at home. Man.
Okay. And Serge Gnabry. We all know about the sheer talent that he is, but is this finally the season that he's going to achieve the greatness he deserves?
Yeah, because Himanshu knows him. No, he can tell better. But I feel Nabri has a knack for scoring, and this season was pivotal for him. The resurgence has happened. People saw, people applauded, even his arch critics, because there were a lot in English media which wrote him off. Like a lot of the outlets, many of the tabloids. Nabri is finished. That's why he's moving to Bundesliga. Wenger did a good thing, but this season he showed what his true traits were, what his true abilities were, and I think his reading of the game, he can read the passes which his teammates are like he can read a pass ahead of the game. So that's what this reading has improved. He scans the field, and I feel this will be a much more bigger test this season to prove whether he's consistent or whether he was a one season flick.
All right. Okay. So
And
moving
and
on.
there's one
Go
more
on.
thing to there's one more important thing to look. It has been speculated that Leroy Sané might make his debut for the
Bayern
Bavarians
team.
against his boyhood
Yeah,
club, and
exactly.
that would be a great thing to watch, because it was Schalke where he earned his reputation. So I think it will be a
That
great
earned him the move
opportunity
to
to,
Manchester City.
yeah,
It's set
before
up.
going to Man City.
I think
So
the
Life's
it's a
coming
Jet
full
great
circle
Jet
move
is
for
set
right
him.
now.
up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life's coming full circle for Leroy Sané, from the Gelsenkirchen to Man City and now to Bayern
Yeah.
Munich play against Schalke.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
Okay.
Bora, like, what do you think? Like, will Gnabry be a he will be a thorn, we know that. But what do you expect of Gnabry this season?
no, Gnabry is going to perform really well because even before the season at Bayern Munich, he had performed really well in Werder Bremen. If you had noticed, he did not get in those goals, scored some absolute screamers, and he was the man to watch out for. Then Bayern bought him, and now he's showing what he's really capable of. No writing of all the no the media that wrote him off, the English media. He's now showing his real potential. He's coming
True,
to the fore
true.
now.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so moving on from here, we are having another lip-smacking match in the Bundesliga, and it's between Borussia Dortmund, two Borussia clubs, Borussia Dortmund and the Borussia Mönchengladbach. So, panel, quickly, if you can tell me your opinions about who you think has the edge here.
I think if it was happening in a full packed stadium in Iduna Park, I would have backed Dortmund, obviously, as well as the results. The previous 5 results suggest it's Dortmund who starts the favorites. But I think Mönchengladbach has improved over the years, and this is a very good chance for them because I see they have a very good attack, and who better to know the attack than Thorgan Hazard, where he played for a long number of years, and Thorgan Hazard knows Mönchengladbach, so it will be a very good reunion for Hazard as well, the smaller Hazard. Plus, I think Mönchengladbach has a very counter-attacking mindset, and if Dortmund leaves spaces for them behind, Mönchengladbach will like hit them hard.
Okay,
I think it will be a well-matched game. And as Trishit have already mentioned, there won't be 25,000 fans shouting at the yellow wall. But I think they will be allowing 10,000 spectators after the pandemic for the first time. So I think Dortmund will obviously have the edge of the home advantage. But still, there are plenty of things to look out going for Mönchengladbach also, because in the last season they were terrific and they gave Bayern Munich a run for their money. And in the last few games they have managed to slip up points, but I think they'll bounce back right from the get go, and there'll be a great match to Dortmund as well.
okay, so it will be a week of reunions, and once again, condolences to the Manchester United fans because the players to watch for are Jadon Sancho and Marcus Thuram. So, what do you expect? Like, Sancho, will he regret not moving to Manchester United, or like
No,
finally?
absolutely no.
Absolutely no. Why?
No, because I think Borussia Dortmund have made some fantastic signings this season.
Okay.
No, they've brought in Thomas Munier, okay, to replace the departing Hakimi. Okay, they have made the loan move of Emre Can permanent. And also not to forget, they have brought in the very talented youngster Jude Bellingham.
Yeah.
So I think he is following in the footsteps of Jadon Sancho, who has moved from England to Germany. And last season, he showed what he's capable of with his 17 goals and 16 assists. He has been the standout performer for for Borussia Dortmund.
Yeah.
And this transfer window, I think, even for all the transfers going in and out, I think Jadon Sancho, if Dortmund are capable to hold on to him, I think he is going to be the biggest asset.
Okay. And about Thuram, what do you guys think? Like, he is also one of the very
Well,
highly rated youngsters in
I
Germany.
think
He was an absolute menace last season, along with Alisson Player. That duo up front was very, very little, and
very good, yeah.
they were actually complementing each other, and both had great scoring records, and both scoring more than 10 goals in all competitions. So I think they'll continue to do so in this season also, and I think that duo will be again a
One
treat to.
one key thing to watch out is for Mönchengladbach is Thuram's physicality. Okay, so if someone like Hummels is playing, Thuram will obviously be holding up the play, against Hummels. So it makes spaces for the other attackers or the midfielders to run in those spaces left behind by Hummels or any other left back or centre back which is playing in this weekend's game. So that has to be capitalized. Thuram can be at the end of any pass. Thuram can hold the defenders. He will make life difficult for the Dortmund defensive line. Another key player, which we haven't mentioned here, but is Dennis Zakaria. Zakaria is the anchor of the midfield. And if the Dortmund midfield, like someone like Emre Can or Dahoud can break that press lines, then it has to be Zakaria. If Zakaria is unlocked and if Zakaria is found out of space or his positional awareness is caught out of those spaces, the Mönchengladbach defensive line will be exposed.
But I
And
think
you know,
Zakaria won't be playing in this match. He's struggling with his
maybe yeah,
match fitness.
yeah, his match
So I
is
think
not
it will
fit. So
be
it's a
great
good
loss
chance for
for
Dortmund.
Mönchengladbach.
And we
Yeah,
know
yeah.
how explosive how explosive the Dortmund forward line is. Even Priyanshu would agree. We were having a talk like about
Yeah.
Haaland. So Haaland is robust as well. He's just waiting this season to punch and like to score more and more goals. I haven't seen a striker of Haaland's quality in many years, man. So we are having high expectation, especially me and Priyanshu.
That is definitely a match to look up to. And from now, moving on from German football to some more known grounds, going to Spain right now. So, Priyanshuda, this is your ground. I'm not going to say a word. You commentate on this. What to expect? What's happening? What we're going to see?
Yeah. So Real Madrid will begin their title defense with a trip to Royal Sociedad on Sunday night. So after winning their last La Liga season, Zidane side will be determined to start off their new campaign with an away win. So with no new addition to the title-winning squad, Madrid brought back their loanee Martin Odegaard, former Real Sociedad player who was on loan. So and he was a standard performer of the team along with Mikel Oyarzabal, which finished sixth on the table. So and Sociedad also bought former Man City player David Silva. Now Madrid have won their last three games against Sociedad and losing the other two. So my point would be, although this one would be a tough one, but I go for Real Madrid win. It will be a tough one. So the goal difference will be very low. So
Okay. The
And
players to
But
watch
I
out.
agree with
Go on, go on.
Yeah, I think it will be a closely contested match, but I think Real Madrid will be able to edge through. And most of the teams have been finding it difficult to perform well at the Anoeta. But Real Madrid has been recently they've been performing very good in the Basque Country. So I think they will be able to and with without Odegaard, they'll be Sociedad will be relying on their new transfer from Man City, that is David Silva, and David Silva hasn't been able to train with the team yet because he was diagnosed with COVID-19 and he had to take he had to stay away from the team. He's back to training now and he'll be most probably participating in the match, but I think it will be taking a bit of time to get him sticking with the team. And Mm, and I think William Jose and Alexander Isak will be the main attacking
Right.
outlet for the Sociedad club. So I think they will be the things to they will be the main focal points. And in the midfield, Oyarzabal has been excellent last season. He was the second best player for the team after Odegaard. So I think Oyarzabal will be the main dictating player in the squad.
and
Let's see.
also with Hazard not starting this game, most probably, all eyes will be on Ramos and Benzema to get an away win on this one. So
Okay.
all eyes on
So
Ramos and Benzema.
For Karim Benzema, this is his 12th season in the top flight of Spanish league. All right. So my question to Priyanshida is, like, is 12 years, is this finally the year that Benzema wins the Pichichi?
If Messi would have left, I would have said yes.
But
But I think he will fight for the PCC, but it is tough. Last year
he
he
was
scored 21 goals. Yeah.
Even when Cristiano Ronaldo was there at Real Madrid, he was always the top three or the top four player like in the league. Karim Benzema, he was playing like he was playing a supportive role, more of a supportive role, just to like adjust Ronaldo or like allow him to play his own game. And he sacrificed a lot now for the team. So this is the time for him to enjoy as the center forward, prime center forward in his prime age. So he's enjoying himself, we can either say, and he likes to be in the limelight as usual. So he knows of his abilities much more than anyone else. And Zidane obviously trusts him, and his instincts are so clear that Benzema is the first name on the clean sheet along with Ramos. And regarding one
Just
point regarding Sociedad, I would like to add I would like to agree with Chaminda. He said about William Jose and Isaac. Although here Oyarzabal is mentioned, William Jose will be key. William Jose will be a very key battle along with against someone like Ferdinand Mendy. And I think it's a very tough outing because Priyanshu was, like Chaminda was saying, they haven't lost much Real Madrid at Basque Frontier, but the San Sebastian is always a tough place to visit. And Madrid won the away matches like by a very small margin in the months of June and July after the lockdown. So I think a 1-0 or 2-0 victory was sufficient at that time. But now they have a little bit of less match practice than Sociedad. And although Sociedad doesn't have all the players the full strength, but I think Sociedad starts slight favorites because this is the start of the season.
And once again,
Well,
it will be a great opportunity for Karim Benzema to take an early lead at the PCC race because both Barcelona and Atletico Madrid won't be featuring this weekend in the La Liga because they've been
Exactly.
playing in quarterfinal of the UCL last season. So I think it's a great chance for him to take an early lead.
okay. With that in mind, from one Madrid player to another, we're having Juventus welcoming Sampdoria. Guys, what do you think? It's Serie A once again. Like, there's not much to talk
Yeah,
about it.
we can expect Juve winning this one comfortably and kick off their campaign on a winning note. I'm expecting Cristiano to be on the score sheet after losing out to Ciro Immobile last season on the top scorers list. So I hope he scores this game.
Yeah, yeah.
Sampdoria is is a very easy team to play against, but I think we know like what Juve is going through a very much a peak transitional period with Pirlo taking over and all. I expect this to be a very tough season for Juventus, but this is a very easy fixture compared to what other remaining hurdles because you say Napoli, you see Roma, you say Milan, everyone is changing, everyone is taking a gear ahead. But I didn't see Juventus making a huge, making a very big move because except for Weston McKenzie, who is not that much of a he's regarded highly in the US, I know, but he has to, he needs time to adjust to CDI right now because the Juve midfield is extremely crowded. And I think this is a very good time for someone like Bernardeschi or like Bentancur. Like someone has to step up and be that player who can inflict the change because they are going through a transitional period. They have lost, I think, Matuidi already. Higuain will be gone by the end of the week, and so this is very tough time for Juventus. And I think for that transition to happen, certain youngsters or certain guys who already been in the team, like out and in of the team, needs to become much more consistent.
Okay, completely
Yes, I
get
think
that.
yeah,
Go
this
on.
game is a perfect opportunity for Andre Pirlo to find his starting 11, the right mix of players because there have been a lot of transfers out. Miralem Zanic has gone, Blaise Matuidi has gone, so there are a lot of gaps in the midfield. Now they have some good midfielders like Aaron Ramsey, they have Rodrigo Bentancur, they also have Adrien Rabiot, they have Weston McKennie coming in. So there are a lot of players in that midfield. So I think Pirlo has a good chance to see who he can rightly fit into the squad, and this there cannot be a better opportunity than this. No, the first game, opening game against Sampdoria, I think Juve can experiment a little bit and find the right mixture of players.
And
Fine tune, yeah.
For Juventus, league is hardly the concern. The main concern is always
Mm.
about winning the Champions League. So, as per the latest reports by different news outlets, Edin Dzeko is finally moving to Juventus. Do you guys finally fancy Juventus as Champions League favorites? I mean, they have been
Uh,
Champions League favorites for quite some seasons now, but is this finally the season?
we were talking about like Luis Suarez moving to Juventus. No, so his passport and all that will be done, but still, I think there was a very big hurdle in Barcelona mutually terminating his contract and releasing him with some like something of that sort, a compensation fees. So it's not pulling through right now. Milik is moving to Roma, and Roma is willing to let their captain Edin Dzeko move to Juventus, and so Dzeko is a very big name, and I think he's a perfect replacement for someone like Higuain, you can say, but it doesn't make them outright title contenders for against teams like Liverpool or recent defending champions like Bayern Munich, and even upcoming teams. It's very difficult for Juventus to lose. You saw how they perform over 2 legs against Lyon. Lyon was a very it is an easy proposition to win and reach the knockouts. But if you don't win against teams like Lyon, who were having a very bad, you can say comparatively a bad domestic season, it speaks highly of Juve's ability to grind out matches.
Great. So these are the players to watch for. There's nothing much to speak about this. Moving on to the next and the last fixture that I think everybody should be looking forward to, given the circumstances the teams are under and also what happened in the last game week. We're talking about Nice versus Paris Saint-Germain. And my question, and the only question is, for Paris Saint-Germain, do they even have a team left?
Not sure. Not sure right now.
Not sure.
Okay, so
you guys saw how they won against Mets last night. No,
Yes.
like on Wednesday. So they won in injury time. Di Maria setting up Drexler. It was very hard fought. Like they had to grind. Icardi was like he was ineffective, man. He was on the wings. He was like I don't know. Coming from a Serie A point of view, he was regarded as a very highly wide poacher who can score from inside the box. But he was in fine touch part of the season, benching Cavani on loan when he was in PSG. But after the lockdown is like he has been out of touch in practice matches. Also, I've seen him like do things which I've never seen someone of his caliber. So if he wants to break into the Argentina national team again or start even for PSG once Mbappe is fit, it's very high time he starts performing and takes responsibility, man. Because he's nearing 20, he's 28, 29 and is going to be 30 soon. So if he doesn't start right now after after 45 million, 50 million being spent on him, I don't see like what is the point of starting him week in, week out.
sure, with the COVID pandemic going on and with the red cards going on, PSG do look like a team in crisis. Still, for this particular match, Di Maria is the only hope because he has been the pivotal figure in the field, both creating and scoring goals. And on the other side, Nice, they have an exciting team in the Liga from like a couple of seasons back, right? Even when Alain Saint-Maximin was playing for them, Nice was always like the entertainer team of the league. So this ought to be a fixture that one should look after.
Yeah, actually, their defense is very strong. You know, Dante is there. Dante, you guys have seen Dante while playing at Bayern Munich. So the defense is quite strong, and they have Atal and Kamara overlapping past the wingers and making space for Alvaro. So this is a very tough proposition at home right now. So if PSG wants to win, they have to score. They have to score and have to score.
And Nice have brought in some good players, you know, under Patrick Vieira. They have a very ambitious project coming up. They have qualified for the Europa League. They have European football coming up, and they have roped in players like Ronnie Lopez on loan from Sevilla. He's a good attacking threat, and also they have brought in Morgan Schneiderlin, the veteran, English season midfielder. So he'll be great, with his experience going. And also they have some good attacking talent. They have Amin Ghouri, the France under-21 international. He is a very good player, and they have Kasper Dolberg, obviously their top scorer last season. He will be a great threat.
Okay, so
I think it will be a match to watch out for, man. Like, it will be a match to watch out for.
Sure. So these are the 6 matches that we want you to look up to because these are some firecrackers ready to bust. Right. Other than that, in the Premier League, we are having Leeds welcoming Fulham. That should be a one-sided match depending on last week's performances. Yeah, we're having Manchester United welcoming Crystal Palace, Arsenal welcoming West Ham, We're having Newcastle welcoming Brighton, and we are also having Leicester welcoming Burnley. So hopefully some goals from Jamie Vardy and some really good defending and assists by the Arsenal team, especially with Oba, who has signed a new contract. So apparently the morale is high in the Arsenal squad, so we're looking up to that. So all in all, this looks out to be a very cracking week, and I can't just wait for Friday to get started and the matches to start pouring in, because I don't think I'll be getting off the television anytime soon this weekend. What about you guys?
Same here, man. Same here. Because I think Arsenal are looking at side rejuvenated under Arteta, and the project is underway. So you obviously have high expectations, and Aubameyang signing the deal means, yeah, for the long term, the morale is very high. Bellerin is staying, Maitland-Niles is staying. So I think Arteta got his fill, and right now the Premier League is a very it's congested, although, but it's a good time to be an Arsenal supporter.
Yeah,
Okay.
also with the sale of Martinez and also Lucas Torreira imminently going out of the club, I think our party or our deal is on the cards.
Maybe, yeah. One of them is surely coming. I feel so.
Okay, I feel a little bit bad for Chaminda that he looks like the person who is so much left out. So our condolences to the Barcelona fans out there. Just wait for another week. The games will be back soon. But once again,
Yeah,
you earned this break.
yeah,
Already. Happy about it.
we'll be happy with we will just be happy with watching Real Sociedad beating Real Madrid. We'll be just be happy with.
No. You'll also be rooting for Nuno, right?
Yeah,
Against
we can.
City,
No,
or will be backing Guardiola.
no. We have the Pep connection, right?
Is there even a question to ask?
No. Last episode he was speaking of Nuno highly, so he thought that Wolves will finish sixth. That's why I
No,
asked.
Wolves is definitely one of my favorite teams in the Premier League, but still, Pep is Pep, right? We can't
Pep is
deny that.
Pep is Pep, and Pep is the word or the sentence that I want all of you to focus on, because someday this is going to be the tagline of something. Like, I'm telling you this.
Very big.
On this note, we've reached the end of today's episode of our podcast, and with the thumping week up in front of us, we can't wait to get back and give an analysis of all the games. So tune in back with us next week on Tuesday, where we'll
Sure.
bring you all the analysis and the news from the transfer world, and hopefully something big will happen in the upcoming 2 days also. So that's it, guys. Thank you for joining in, and see you guys again on Tuesday. Bye bye.